student friends, welcome to this session. Let us study the evaporators which are used in the refrigerating machines. So, what is the function of this evaporator? The evaporator acts like a heat exchanger. The heat is transferred from one fluid to the other in case of the heat exchanger, and in the evaporator the refrigerant is absorbing the heat from the surrounding, say surrounding air or sometimes water, right? And then this refrigerant gets evaporated into vapor, and therefore that heat exchanger is called as the evaporator. And when the refrigerant absorbs the heat, the surrounding space will get cooled or refrigerated, and that is the main purpose of the various refrigerating machines. So the heat of evaporation is absorbed by the refrigerant. The refrigerant gets evaporated, and the heat of absorption is absorbed by the refrigerant from the surrounding, and due to this the surrounding air or surrounding water, first of all the material of the evaporator gets cooled, right? And thus we can obtain the refrigerating effect. So thus cooling effect is provided or refrigerating effect is provided due to the absorption of heat by the refrigerant which is evaporated in the evaporator, right? Now what is the location of this evaporator? Evaporator is located after expansion device and before the compressor, right? But sometimes we can have some additional devices. Sometimes we can have before the compressor the accumulator may be present, right? So after the evaporator, uh, accumulator may be there, and then the compressor may be there, right? So it depends upon the particular system and the particular application. But as far as the major devices are considered, the evaporator lies between the expansion device and the compressor. That is after expansion device and the compressor. So let us study the various evaporators. For that, we have to start with the classification of the evaporator. So the evaporators are classified in various ways according to the manner in which liquid refrigerant is fed to the evaporator. The evaporators are classified as dry expansion evaporators and flooded evaporators. So what is this dry expansion evaporator and flooded evaporator? In details we are going to study later on with the help of figures. So all these figure evaporators we are going to study in detail later on with the help of figures. So the evaporators also classified according to the type of construction as bare tube evaporator, plate surface evaporator, finned tube evaporator, or tube in tube evaporator, that is the double tube evaporator, shell and coil evaporator, and shell and tube evaporator. So this classification depends upon the construction. This classification depends upon what exactly is the shape and size and how the surfaces are provided for the heat transfer. So that decide this classification, that is according to the type of construction. Now the classification of evaporators according to the mode of heat transfer. Sometimes the heat is transferred naturally by natural current of air, that is natural convection evaporator, and sometimes we are using some fan or a blower so that the rate of flow of air is increased, so that is called as the forced convection evaporator. So the fan or a blower may be used to increase the speed of the air which is flowing over the evaporator so that the heat transfer rate is increased. So that is nothing but the forced convection evaporator. According to the type of operating condition, maybe frosting evaporator, non-frosting evaporator, and defrosting evaporator. So such evaporators you might be uh, able to see in the domestic refrigerators, right? So where frosting is a problem, sometimes we are using the non-frosting evaporators, and sometimes we are using those evaporators which can be defrosted. That is, frost is nothing but the layer of ice which is formed on the evaporator coil and the surface of heat transfer due to the moisture which is present in the surrounding air. The moisture which is present in the surrounding air get condensed on the evaporator coil due to the lower temperature of the evaporator coil. Since the temperature of the evaporator coil is below 0 degree centigrade, so the water vapor which is present in the air, it will get condensed over the evaporating surface. That is called as the frost formation, right? Now, according to the type of expansion, we are having the various two types of evaporators, that is direct expansion evaporator and indirect expansion evaporator. So actually this classification is based on whether we are using some secondary fluid or not. In case of direct expansion evaporator, uh, if you consider the example of air conditioning, the air which is conditioned is directly coming in contact with the evaporator. But in case of indirect expansion type evaporator, we are using water. This water is chilled and then this water is circulated everywhere, and then the refrigerating effect is transferred from the chilled water to the air in each and every room, that is in the central air conditioning. So this classification of evaporator is actually applicable mostly for the central air conditioning application, right? Now let us study this first type of evaporator, that is the dry expansion evaporator, right? So it is called as the dry expansion evaporator because some part of this evaporator is always dry. Okay, so this part of the evaporator which is connected to the say compressor is always dry. Therefore, it is called as the dry expansion evaporator. So as we know that the evaporator consists of a coil. So this is the evaporator coil shown symbolically because only two or three coils are shown. Actually, the number of coils are present, right? And at the inlet of the evaporator, we are having a thermostatic expansion valve. This is a thermostatic expansion valve. Already we have studied the thermostatic expansion valve. So actually, this thermostatic expansion valve is always used along with the dry expansion evaporator. Or in other words, we can say that whenever we are using the dry expansion evaporator, that time we have to use the thermostatic expansion valve, right? So what is happening is that whatever refrigerant is leaving the evaporator, the temperature of this refrigerant is sensed by this thermal bulb. Some refrigerant is present, actually the same refrigerant is present in this thermal bulb, and this thermal bulb is connected to the thermostatic expansion valve through a capillary tube. So the temperature of the refrigerant is sensed and that feedback is given to the thermostatic expansion valve, and according to this feedback of the temperature which is sensed by the thermal bulb, the opening and closing area of this particular thermostatic expansion valve is controlled, and thus the flow rate of the refrigerant passing through the evaporator coil is controlled by this particular valve, thermostatic expansion valve, right? So how this control takes place? Suppose the load on the evaporator is increased. So due to that, what will happen is that the temperature of the refrigerant which will leave the evaporator will be increased, and due to that the additional force will be generated, additional pressure will be acting on this particular uh, thermostatic expansion valve, right? So actually in this thermostatic expansion valve we are using a diaphragm, so the pressure is exerted on the diaphragm, so the diaphragm is just pushed due to the pressure or the force which is acting by this particular thermal bulb, the refrigerant which is present in the thermal bulb, that will pressurize this particular diaphragm in the thermostatic expansion valve, and the diaphragm will move, and that movement will be converted in increasing or decreasing, actually in this case the increasing of the opening of the thermostatic expansion valve, and this will allow more refrigerant to enter inside the evaporator coil, and thus the flow rate of the refrigerant of will be increased in the evaporator coil. So vice versa is also true. That means if the load is decreased, then the temperature here will be decreased, and then due to that, feedback will be given to the thermostatic expansion valve, and due to that, the flow rate of the refrigerant will be reduced, right? And that is what is required to be done. Okay, so that is the working of the dry expansion evaporator. So as I have told you that dry expansion evaporator is used along with the thermostatic expansion valve. So in the previous video I studied the thermostatic expansion valve. Once again I am going to show the thermostatic expansion valve. Actually this figure and the previous figure, they are almost the same, but in the previous figure this thermostatic expansion valve was shown symbolically. But here, since we are studying the thermostatic expansion valve, this thermostatic expansion valve is shown in detail, right? So actually it is the same thing which is being represented in a different way. Okay, so here also you can see the evaporator coil, and the refrigerant, when it leaves the evaporator coil, it will give the feedback to through the thermal bulb and through the capillary to the thermostatic expansion valve about the control of the flow rate of the refrigerant which is passing towards the evaporator. So that is the working of this particular dry expansion evaporator, which is used along with the thermostatic expansion valve. So this is nothing but the thermostatic expansion valve, right? Now we'll study the other type of evaporator, that is the flooded type evaporator. So this is a flooded type evaporator. So it consists of a surge chamber which is connected to the evaporator coil, right? So here you can see that the surge chamber, the top portion as well as the bottom portion of the surge chamber is connected to the evaporator coil. Okay, and the surge chamber is having an inlet. It is the inlet for the entry of the refrigerant from the expansion device, right? So this entry of the refrigerant is controlled by the float valve. So this float valve will maintain a particular level of liquid refrigerant in the surge chamber. When this particular level of the refrigerant is obtained, at that time this float valve will close this particular opening, and further entry of the refrigerant will not be allowed in this particular surge chamber or uh, to the evaporator, right? But due to the action of the load, when the evaporator coil comes in contact with the heat load, due to the heat load, what will happen is that the refrigerant will evaporate. Refrigerant in the evaporator coil will evaporate. So the evaporated refrigerant will be collected in the at the top of the surge chamber, right? So here the baffle is present, and this baffle will prevent the flow of the liquid droplets of the refrigerant towards the compressor along with the vapor. Along with the vapor, some liquid droplets may also enter the compressor. That should be avoided. So sometimes we are using the accumulator to avoid the flow of the liquid droplets of the refrigerant to the compressor. Here we are using the baffle, which is present at the top of the surge chamber. So the top of this surge chamber uh, is actually filled with the refrigerant vapor, right? And a baffle is present. So this refrigerant vapor will go to the compressor, right? And the liquid droplets will be removed by this particular baffle, and they will be stopped by this particular baffle, and refrigerant vapor will go to the compressor. So this is the construction and working of the flooded type evaporator, which consists of the evaporator coil, the surge chamber, the float valve, the baffle, and the inlet for the refrigerant and the outlet for the refrigerant to the compressor, right? Now we have studied that depending upon the construction or the surface area available for heat transfer, the evaporators are classified into various types, and this is one type, that is the bare tube evaporator. So only tubes or coils are present. There is no extended, there are fins are not there. These are the supports. These are not the fins. Okay. So the refrigerant is entering The refrigerant vapors are entering and the liquid refrigerant is leaving. Actually, it is a evaporator. That means in the evaporator, the liquid refrigerant should enter and the vapor should leave. Okay, so there is some mistake. This is looking like a condenser. Okay, so anyway, this is the bare tube evaporator. In the bare tube evaporator, actually, the liquid refrigerant enters and the refrigerant vapor is coming out. Okay, so this small correction can be made here, and let us go ahead. Plate surface evaporator. This plate surface evaporator is used in the domestic refrigerator, right? So in the domestic refrigerator, you might have seen the freezer compartment in which the ice cubes are formed. So previously, the refrigeration evaporator coil was located outside of this particular chamber, that freezer chamber. Then what will happen is that the inside portion will not be cooled properly. If you look at the evaporator coil inside, then outside portion will not be cooled properly. And therefore, what we are doing is that the wall of that particular freezer chamber itself is used as the evaporating surface. So that wall is a double wall and it is having such perforations and that are used as the passage of the refrigerant. Actually, they are the tubes or the coils, they form the coil. Okay, so this particular sheet, one wall or sometimes both the walls, they are just converted in such a shape that it will form a coil or a tube, a continuous tube, right? Maybe zigzag, and through that particular tube the refrigerant will flow and that will also act as the wall of the freezer compartment. So this particular wall will perform two functions. It will act as a wall also, but most importantly it is acting as the evaporating surface because this wall incorporates the evaporator coil. So that is a very important you can say design, special design is there, creative design is there. So this is an important design consideration, right? And that is nothing but the plate surface evaporator, the design of the plate surface evaporator, which we can see in the domestic refrigerator. So we must observe all these things carefully, and so that we can understand the technology and the engineering, and then we can go ahead, our ideas will be more clear. Okay, now this is nothing but the plate surface evaporator once again. So you can see that the refrigerant is entering, it is passing through the coil. Actually this coil is present in this particular plates only, and the refrigerant is leaving, it gets evaporated, and the refrigerant vapors are leaving the particular evaporator, they are going to the compressor, the liquid refrigerant from the expansion device is entering inside the evaporator, right? And this is a plate, the plate itself act as a surface, right? And that plate, in that plate only the evaporator coil is embedded. So that is a plate surface evaporator. Then this is the finned evaporator. So you can see a number of thin wires, they act as the fins. So the fins are used for increasing the heat transfer rate. Okay, so this is nothing but the finned evaporator. This is the inlet and this is the outlet, inlet for the liquid refrigerant and outlet for the refrigerant vapor. Okay, then this is the tube in tube type evaporator, right? So you can see two tubes. One is the larger tube having a larger diameter, another is the smaller diameter tube. So the smaller diameter tube is present inside the larger diameter tube. So here you can see this is the smaller diameter tube and it lies inside this particular larger diameter tube or coil. Okay, so it is called as the tube in tube type evaporator, right? Now you can see here that what is entering inside the larger tube or larger coil is the refrigerant. The refrigerant vapor is entering from the top of the larger tube, right? And it leaves from the bottom of the larger coil or tube. Now the liquid is entering. Actually here we can cool the liquid. Okay, So if the application is air conditioning, then the water can enter, right? So water is the liquid to be cooled if the application is air conditioning. That is the indirect expansion type air conditioning. That is the central air conditioning where chilled water is circulated for air conditioning purpose. So here this water, ordinary water is entering inside this particular um, evaporator through the smaller tube and it leaves here, okay, and it comes in contact with the refrigerant. Previously the here the refrigerant is liquid. The liquid refrigerant will absorb the heat from this particular liquid or water which is present inside the inner tube, and thus the refrigerant gets evaporated and this refrigerant vapor or the evaporated refrigerant will leave this particular larger coil, okay, and due to that, since the heat of evaporation of the refrigerant is absorbed by the refrigerant from this particular fluid or this liquid water which is flowing through the inner tube, this water gets chilled or this fluid gets cooled, right? So we get the cool liquid out. The liquid to be cooled is entering and the cool liquid is coming out, okay, through this particular evaporator known as the tube in tube type evaporator. This is a schematic diagram of a flooded type or shell and tube type evaporator, right? So in the shell and tube type evaporator, we are having a shell. This shell is almost cylindrical in shape, and through this shell, inside this shell, we are having a number of tubes. Through these tubes, the cooling water is flowing, and uh, what is the refrigerant surrounds these particular tubes, which is present in the shell. The refrigerant is entering inside the shell and it comes in contact with the tubes and this refrigerant leaves this particular shell, okay. So we are going to study one more diagram. This is the embedded tube plate surface evaporator. So one more figure of the plate surface evaporator we are having, because the tube is embedded inside the plates. We are having this plates is having double wall or double plate, okay, and these plates, you can say these plates are manufactured or curved in such a way that automatically we get the section. Here the section is like this. Here the section at this tube is like this, okay. So the walls are bent in such a way that automatically tube formation takes place, right? So this is the tube and plate type evaporator, or the again the plate surface evaporator, right? So this is the plate. Here this is the tube. The refrigerant vapor is entering. uh, Actually refrigerant liquid should enter and refrigerant vapor should come out. Refrigerant liquid should enter and refrigerant vapor should come out if this is the evaporator, otherwise it is a condenser, right? So if it is a tube and plate type evaporator, then the liquid refrigerant should enter and the refrigerant vapor should leave, okay. So I can just make this change here quickly. The liquid refrigerant is entering and the refrigerant vapor is leaving, okay, through this particular evaporator coil. And this is a plate, right? So this tube is embedded in the plate and it comes in contact with the air. The air is flowing over this particular plate, okay, and this air gets cooled, okay. So this is the back plate of refrigerator tube and the air passage evaporator tube fixed to plate, okay. So in this way we have studied the various types of evaporators. Thank you, my dear